And Arthur said, well, we've searched all over the countryside, and I have all these books full of answers. Let's see, More Children was one of them, and A Nicer Diamond was another one, and Someone to Take Me to the Love Affair with Townsend was... and the knight said, do you have an answer? And he got off his horse and walked straight up to the knight and looked straight up at him and said, what a woman wants more than anything else in the world is to decide for herself who she will be and what she will do. And the knight put his hands to his head and began to shake and scream until he shook his arms off and his body shook and his head shook, and the sound was deafening until the parts of his body were on the ground, and they shook until they shook themselves to dust. And Arthur got back on his horse and started to ride home. Well, when he passed the cottage, he heard this voice that said, Arthur, have you forgotten something? And he stopped his horse, he reined it around, he got off, he walked to the lady, gave her his arm, escorted her to the horse, helped her on. And Arthur, king of all the Britons, like a young squire, took the reins of the horse and walked her out of the forest. Well, when they started to approach Camelot again, the herald said, the king is back, the king is back. And they saw who was on the horse, and they said, the king. There were people who had heard the first part. They had run out to the street. They were throwing flowers across the path. They said, the king is back. He came to the castle. There were all the knights of the Round Table on their horses waiting, and Guinevere, and they were shouting, and the king is back. And when he came in front of the Knights of the Round Table, he said, men of the Round Table, I present the woman who has saved my life. He helped her down. He said, and now, lady, anything that you desire, you shall have. And she said, I desire the hand of Sir Gawain in marriage. Well, a dozen young women fainted dead on the spot. But Gawain, without hesitating for a moment, stepped forward, dropped to one knee, took her hand and kissed it and said, my lady, will you consent to be my wife this very day? Well, it was the most depressing wedding you've ever been to. All the women were crying because he was getting married, and all the men were crying because of who he was marrying. This is the only wedding anybody had ever been to when the priest said, you may kiss the bride if you want to. Well, the king had given the couple the royal apartments for their honeymoon, and Gawain carried her across the threshold, set her down. And when her feet touched the ground, she turned to him and said, husband, it's getting dark. We should get ready for bed. He said, absolutely. Why don't you go first? And so he stayed out in the chamber, taking off his armor, taking off his sword, taking as much time as he could possibly figure out to take to get ready, but finally he was going in. He opened the door and he looked ahead of him on the bed, and lying on the bed was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her form was gorgeous. Her hair was beautiful. Her skin was so perfect. And for just a moment, Gawain was dumbstruck. Finally, he came to himself and he said, where's the hag? I mean, where's my wife? And she said, husband, I am your wife. He said, that can't be. You're not the woman that I married. She said, I am. I am Dame Ragnell. I was the prisoner of the Black Knight. And when I wouldn't give myself to him willingly, he put me under a double enchantment. And you, my husband, have broken the first of the double enchantment, because he said that I would look like a hag all of my life until some man of his own free will would marry me. And so now, husband, instead of being a hag all the time, I am a hag now only half of the day. I am a hag in the daytime and in this form at night. Or I can be this way in the daytime and the hag at night. Choose, husband, which you will have. And Gawain thought about it a minute. He said, well, let's see. If I have the hag in the daytime, nobody will want to speak to us, and everybody's going to be sad all the time. Well, look what I get at night. But if I have the beautiful wife during the daytime, everybody will be happy for me, and it's going to be a wonderful life. But at night, let me review. But if she's beautiful in the daytime, then this is what I have to sleep with at night, is the hag. What am I going to do? Which one is better? How am I going to... He said, wife, I don't know what the right thing to do is. I think you should decide. And suddenly there was a sound that was so loud it was deafening, and it was like the sound of glass breaking and light going off. And the next thing Sir Gawain knew, he was opening his eyes, lying on the bed, and there beside him was Ragnell with a cool cloth she was wiping his forehead with, and she was smiling a smile that was angelic. And he said, "What's happened?" And she said, "Oh, husband, 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 you have broken the second part of the enchantment." He said, "I did?" She said, "Yes, yes. When you let me choose who I would be and what I would do." And that couple lived the rest of their lives happily, happily, happily ever after in Camelot. And so did every couple who learns the lesson of Arthur and the Black Knight. Folks, thank you so much. Now, we are going to take a little break, let you run to the restroom, and I want you to know outside in the hall there are CDs that you're going to want to get about Blue Moon Rising, and I have some CDs here in the corner. Take about 10 minutes and come back for another great set of music. Thank you very much, everybody.